Welcome to today's episode of the Insight Games with your hosts, Lynne, Elaine, and Greg. Let's welcome our special guest, Hakan Akbas. Now let's play some Insight Games. So game 2, this is called Time Traveler. So for 2 to 3 minutes, the contestant shares a goal they want to achieve or something they want to bring into reality. And then for 20 minutes, the other players take turns asking the following questions, inviting the contestant to time travel. Imagine standing in the present, looking to a point in the future when future you is achieving your goal. What do you see, hear, feel, or notice? Number 2, now imagine standing at the point in the future when you're achieving your goal. Look back towards the present. Notice what you've been doing through the span of time to achieve your goal. Identify 3 or 4 particularly significant milestones that let you know you are making a major progress along the way. Number 3, standing in that future, looking back to the present, what message, gift, or other resource would that future you send to your present self? Number 4, return to the present, looking to the future, and receive that message, gift, or resource with love and gratitude. And then for 5 minutes, all players share any insights, realizations, or impacts they experienced. So I know that's a mouthful. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to paste those instructions if I can. Let me see. Not able to copy the text, so let me try this if I can paste the image into the chat. So that's the image of the question. Now, for logistical simplicity, I'll read the question since I have it on my screen already. That'll spare us all the pain and agony of going through this. Does that sound fair enough?
Yeah, sounds good.
All right, cool. And I'm going to get my phone. Oh, my timer. It's the magic of having the ability to edit things later. 3 minutes. All right. So, on. What's a goal you would like to achieve or something you would love to bring into reality?
Wow. There's somehow I was expecting this question to be similar to this. I was kind of expecting the unicorn one, right? This kind of relates to that. And there's 3 things that be like cool to achieve and create. And these are like my 3 babies, my 3 children, right? And what you're asking me to do is literally kill 2 of them. You just choose one. So I'll go through what those 3 are. So one of them is basically to have a real deep, meaningful, transformative conversation with 2 famous Turkish stars. The other one is basically to have my dream home. And the third one is, I've told you, Greg, this one is basically to have some sort of role in a Star Wars film or a series. So I'm going to take the gun and I'm going to shoot the Star Wars one and the dream home. Right? So there's 2 people who I really would love to be able to have a transformative conversation based around the principles, kind of like, I don't know if any of you guys have seen like a 2-day, 3-day Michael Neal style intensive, something like that with these 2 people. The first one, his name's Cem Yılmaz, and he's a Turkish comedian, and he has a lot of people that who sort of follow him, and he's very, I'm going to use the word open-minded. Right? And then the other one, her name's Sertab Erener, and she was I think, one and only person who won the Eurovision Song Contest for Turkey. And these two people, if I had the opportunity just to have this conversation with them, it would be so damn awesome, right? Because if if it's like creating the space for insight or an impact with them, and if they have it, it's like if that impacts their life, it's going to impact other people as well as a kind of like a byproduct. And yeah, those two people are the ones that who I would love to just have this, spend a couple of days just immersing ourselves in what we see and what shows up.
Awesome. All right. Thanks for sharing that. So I'm going to ask you a series of questions. We've got about 20 minutes for this part. Just reset my timer here. So question one, imagine standing in the present, looking to a point in the future when the future you is achieving your goal. What do you see? What do you hear? What do you feel? And what do you notice? So I want you to imagine you're in that 2-day intensive with these people.
So, right, it's like how should I say it? I see a lot of greenery.
Mm.
It's like being on a farm and we're just walking, talking. I also see us like uh, in a room. It's like maybe like a farmhouse type of room. You know, well, the building's like a farmhouse, and it's like a room. We're having a coffee and we're just sort of chatting away, and there's that connection. Now, I'm sort of seeing myself with Serta, right? And we're just sort of, in the room, I'm actually seeing some sort of instruments as well. So um, I see a drum set, and it's like a full drum set there, and maybe some guitars over there. And it's like we're sitting here, we're just sort of sitting side by side in like an armchair, kind of maybe like those big swivel armchair type things, having a coffee, we're chatting away, and then there's the drum sets and all that sort of stuff there. And it's like um, really sort of relaxed, fun type of thing. Um, and with Jem, it's like, hmm, it's like more of an officey type of a thing, place. Yeah, it's like, we're, it's like there's a coffee table in front of us. Here's there on that side, and, we're talking, and it's like our hands are like on our knees and, and pointing and stuff like that. And it's like an engaging conversation.
Nice. Question number two. Now imagine standing at that point in the future when you're achieving your goal. Look back towards the present. Notice what you've been doing through that span of time to achieve your goal and identify 3 or 4 particular significant milestones that let you know you're making progress along the way. What milestones come to mind?
You know what sort of comes to my mind? It's like stalking, right? I can see, here's what sort of comes to me, right? I can see Jem on stage, right? And him saying, as a one of his skit routines saying, look, this guy, he was, I find out he's like stalking me, asking me to speak to me. I find from friends, people he's been reaching out all to these people that who know me, and they're like saying that you should see this guy wants to speak to you. And I'm like, who the F is this guy? Who is this guy? Whoa, whoa, whoa. He's literally stalking me. And, I gave in. I'm like, okay, look, let me hear what the hell he's got to say. And he's like, say, you know what? I'm like, oh my gosh, the conversation we had, it's like, it's like, I'll say it in Turkish, right? It's like, abi, he goes, ya adam geldi, adam geldi, e, şaşırdım. So it means like the guy came over and we spoke and, I'm surprised or shocked or something like that.
Mm.
So the steps that I see is like me sort of reaching out to people that, know him. And one of the things that I'm seeing is reaching out to normal people that who may or may not know him, like just to find that connection to him. And in some way, the other things that I see is like coaching them, you know, coaching them or having a conversation with them and literally like stalking him. The other thing is like to the point where, look, man, I had this conversation with this guy, right? You really need to speak to him. I know he's been stalking me. Hey, something around like those are the steps that I sort of see.
Some question three, standing in that future, looking back to the present, what message, gift, or other resource would that future you send to your present self?
So, like, if I was future me coming time traveling back to me,
Yeah. Yeah. What would that future you want to
oh,
give the present you to help you get through that journey?
wow, you reminded me of a time when things were going really crap for me at this time. And like for 2 years, I was doing jobs that I didn't want to do. And then after that, I found the job at Thomson Reuters and I stayed there for about 12 years. Okay. And in that scenario, if I went back to myself and said, look, you're going to have a really crap couple of years, but hey, it's going to work out fine. You're going to be in the company for 12 years. I would have either didn't believe myself or I would have thought, oh, I'll just ride through these 2 years.
Mm.
Um, it'll be either one of those two. And that came to me and it'll be like, dude, this is going to be a mission and a half, right? But you know what? It's, it's gonna happen. It's gonna, or this might be a challenge, might be a difficult, hey, look, I feel your pain. I was there. But you know what? This payoff is actually going to be so damn awesome.
Love it.
And as I'm saying that, something just came to me. It's like, I think we mentioned it to you in our last when we spoke last time, Greg, is that my family paradigm was like everything being a struggle and the payoff is the end result.
Mm.
Now that's actually flipped for me. It's like, look, there's going to be hard work involved, but you don't need to go through that sort of struggle.
Mm. And last question, number 4, I invite you to return to the present, looking to the future, and receive that message, gift, or resource with love and gratitude. What do you notice?
I see myself embracing myself, hugging myself.
Mm.
It's like, it's like the future me is hugging me, and it's like, yeah, I feel you, and there's the love there. And the present me is thinking, um, yeah, okay, what's going on here? What type of thing? But accepting it.
Mm. Nice. Thanks for sharing all that, Hakan. I enjoyed it. All right, we'll spend 5 minutes sharing insights, realizations, impacts that we experience. So maybe the three of us can share what we noticed first to give you a minute to cook, and then we'll come back to you and see what showed up for you. All right. Start the timer here. Oh, anything showing up for you, for Lynne and Elaine?
That was lovely.
Yeah.
I think the first thing that showed up for me was, which is not the first time I felt this, Hakan's enthusiasm. And what struck me was he wants to be having conversations with people who will have an impact and influence others. So whatever impact he has on them, there's going to be a ripple effect. That really came through loud and clear, which I thought was pretty neat. That was the first thing.
Yeah, I noticed just towards the end, as you mentioned, something that he'd been speaking with you about previously, Greg, that sort of, I couldn't get over his enthusiasm, but like underlying the enthusiasm, there was just it's almost like he was kind of shyly admitting that this is just what he's going to do, sort of, but like, I kind of understand you guys, it's a difficult thing to actually believe all of this, but I actually believe all of this. This is going to happen. And I kind of, he confirmed that for me at the end when he said, that like in his family conversations, it's like we have this thing that everything is just a struggle full stop. But I didn't hear any of that struggle in that conversation. Not a single word of struggle was in there. It's like, okay, this is it. And all that remains to do, this is what it sounds like to me, is just, well, go out and do it. Fair enough. Great, there we are. Because that's where I'm going, and attaching, Lynne's bit, like, because I really need to share this stuff and get it. As Jamie teaches us, it's an exponential thing. If we give something, that those people are going to give something to somebody else, and so it goes on, and so it grows. Yeah, so I guess enthusiasm, it's just done, and the exponentiality of it, and the ease with which Hakan speaks about it.
For me, the whole idea or concept of stalking is like kind of stuck with me. It's like the relentless pursuit of what you want. And when I think of people who are stalkers, I think like they're a little touched in the head, right? Like they can't take no for an answer, no level of security or restraining orders or any obstacle is going to get in their way from what they want. And I think that level of enthusiasm comes across. I actually had an image of the comedian, I don't know, in a big venue telling the story like Hakan explained it, and he goes through his whole bit, and the crowd is, you know, bent over laughing their asses off. And then he goes, actually, the guy's right here. He's in the crowd with us. Get him up here on stage. And almost like Hakan would be like touring with him to be like his secret guest or something. I don't know. Anyway, I loved how vividly this whole dream is. And then as what we were just sharing just the last second, I was thinking, we got to find a way to get this episode of the Insight Games to these people.
Like, do you know while were you guys talking, what's sort of popping up in my head, him on stage saying, I finally give in to this guy. I had this conversation with him. Next minute I know he's bloody coaching me. He's my coach,
Yeah.
This guy was a damn stalker, something like that,
Mm.
What just came up for me there was, that's a new niche.
Yeah, how to get clients.
The stalking coach.
Yeah.
Oh man,
That's awesome.
And I
awesome.
even saw myself, right, outside his house with like a megaphone saying, Jem, come out. I'm here. I'm here. I'm outside here. Not obviously when he knows I'm stalking him.
Mm.
Getting dragged by the police and saying, there's something I want to spend a couple of days with him.
Love it.
Can we get I Wonder next? Because I've got loads of wonders.
Let's see. Well, we'll see what the wheel has in store for us. You up for another round?
Yeah, let's go for it. Let's go for it.
Things are not always what they seem. Now, Lynne mentioned playing I Wonder. So in the theme of throwing the rules aside, if everyone would rather play I Wonder, I'm game for it. Or we can go ahead with things are not always what they seem. Any preferences?
No preferences for me.
I think we'll ask Hakan since he's our guest.
I got no preference, but I am kind of curious about the wandering one.
All right. Well, let's share the screen again. We'll go to I Wonder. It is one of our favorites. So game one. You guys can see the screen all right?
Yeah.
So for 3 to 5 minutes, player one shares something they want more clarity on, a problem they want to solve, a goal they want to accomplish. For 10 minutes, all players take turns making I wonder statements relating to what player one has shared. Player one just listens and takes in what people are wondering. And then at the end, for 5 minutes, player one shares what they heard that was interesting or made a difference for them, and reports on whether anything has changed or shifted for them.
I keep that one up. Oh, just send it over.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm just sort of thinking like,
So you can come up with something new, I guess, on something you want more clarity on, a problem you want to solve, or a goal you want to accomplish, or we could just jump right into wondering about what you've already shared in the previous game about wanting to coach these two.
Yeah, give me a second, sir. Okay. today I've started to get insights that there's a path that's opened up in front of me. I don't exactly know what it involves, or how that would be. So let me sort of just very quickly just read a post that I created, and this is basically what. Let me just get this up. So I've hit on this realization that there's a path in front of me. It's not completely crystal clear, but it seems like that's there for me to follow. I don't know what the journey will be like, or where it will lead, but I've got an idea of what the path may actually entail. And this is all to do with like sharing of how our experiences are created. These are the things that I do know. Things like, we're always looked after, we're modern, our thoughts, things like around each of us live in separate realities. Life is a privilege, and, this world is a place that where basically no one's going to be getting out alive. Things that, we've got evolved into, we've basically evolved to deal with reality. And there is a beyond our imagination. I know these things are all wrapped up in there. I know that there is a path for me to follow. And even though it's not crystal clear, I do know it's most probably related to creating events. It's related to creating gatherings for people in the coaching community, and for the world at large. And that's basically, I'm sort of pulled to that. And it's basically stepping into the unknown. It's like an unknown territory for me, because I don't know how or what's going to be showing up. But I'm sort of kind of like being directed to that. So I'm like, this is a path on that, and there's this sort of resistance. I'm catching myself here. There's this resistance, right? Or am I going to be okay? Which I know I'm going to be okay. And I noticed that sort of come up, and then I'm like, I know no matter what's going to happen, is I'm going to be okay. But um, it's like it would be so cool to have the roadmap right in front of me. This is how it's going to look like. And it's like, how best I can describe it. It's like being in a room where it's slightly darker, a bit dim, and feeling my way around it. And maybe feeling my way around to the light switch.
All right. You hang tight for 10 minutes while we come up with all kinds of things we're wondering about. I'm wondering what Hakan was looking at when he said there's this path, and he kind of
Mm.
looked to the, I don't know if it was the left or right, depending on the camera orientation, but it was almost like he could see it. I'm just wondering what was that he saw there.
I was wondering two things. I was wondering who was on that path with the can that he looked at, but also when he said there's a roadmap, and I was wondering if he could only see the corner of that roadmap. What's the first signpost? If that's all that was visible to him.
I was wondering, because what it again sounded to me like, I was wondering if Hakan knows he's actually got the roadmap. It was the first part of his conversation. And from that, if he knows that however hard he look, the map is not the territory. So he's never going to know that anyway. Until he gets there, of course.
I was wondering what's the very next step that he can take. And, you know, not needing, thinking of that E.L. Doctorow quote of driving at night in the fog. You only see as far as your headlights, but you can make the whole journey that way. That, you know, what is just that next step? He said that there's some resistance about whether he's going to be okay or not, but then he says, but I know I'm going to be okay. And I just wondered, in those two sentences, in each use of the word I, who is the I that he's talking about? Like, it seemed to me like there was the first I was a different part of him than the second I.
I was just wondering what he meant exactly by, like, just towards the end. Yeah, I'm feeling my way towards the light switch. Just struck me, and I don't know why.
Yeah, so I wonder, that wasn't the first use of light that Hakan used in the beginning. He said it's not crystal clear, again, suggesting that that may be a little bit dark, but I wonder, he mentioned so many things that he's certain about that would be going on, the sharing how experience is created, lives of privilege, etc., etc. I wonder if he knew knowing that is enough. Where does that take him?
The one on his list of things that he shared that jumped out at me was the idea that no one gets out alive. And for me, that's, the way I think of that is kind of just motivation to take immediate action. That there's we were chatting about this yesterday, Hakan and I, but the idea, like, every day you're one day closer to death. So what are you waiting for, kind of thing. I also wonder about these events he talked about holding events, gatherings for people in the coaching world and everyday people. What are these events? What do they look like? How do they happen? Where do they happen? When do they happen? When's the first one? The whole time he was talking at for the most of it anyway, I kept waiting for the but. I want to do this, and it didn't really ever come until the end. There's a little bit of the resistance, but it still wasn't much of a but. It was so I'm just wondering what's actually getting in the way, if there is actually anything even in the way. Is it just a matter of taking that step?
I just wondered there, listening to you, Greg, when Hakan started speaking, he said, a path has opened up, and I don't quite know what it involves. So that suggests that he didn't create that path. You know, a path has opened up that came to him. Yeah, I wonder if he can imagine just sitting on that path. So I'm basking in the path. Actually, that's what I was wondering. Just if he's just basking in that path, how does he feel when he's really on that path that has opened up in front of him, with all those things that it entails, the gatherings, the people, the events? How is he feeling? I wonder.
Yeah, the image that came to my mind reminded me of when I watch my son play video games. Like he's in a room, kind of like Con was describing, that's dark or whatever, and he hits a switch or steps on a brick or something, and this door suddenly appears or opens up. You know, when you're playing a game, it's like there's no hesitation. It's like, oh my God, I just found this new path has just revealed itself to me. You don't even think about it. You just go right in there. I mean, sure, in a game you can respawn if the first thing the first step you take in there is like, you know, there's the big boss at the end of the game to destroy you. But I don't know. I just like just the idea of thinking of it like a game, like the curiosity, the exploring, the excitement of that path being revealed. It's almost like the excitement is so intense that you just got to go forward on that path. Not even a question.
Lynne, when you mentioned about the path, the first thing that I sort of saw is I live near some woods, and there's trees and grass, and there's a path, and the railroad track is next to it. I saw that. And then that kind of morphed into seeing a path, and there's trees, like a whole load of trees, and there's a path that's going through it. And then that morphed into seeing something like, you know, Alice in Wonderland and The Wizard of Oz. I saw that as the path. Yeah, it seems a bit weird, me being Alice there. And seeing things like, you know, the Cheshire Cat in front of me. And, that came to me while we were talking. I think, Greg, you mentioned about what the gatherings and things would look like. And my instant reaction type of thing came like Zoom. But then something else came up. It's like somewhere that's like a setting that I would love to be. that's sort of just sort of coming to me, like the places I love to go. So, like, I'm so fascinated by things like Aztec type history
Mm.
and the pyramids and South America. So that sort of came to me on that. And something came to me, and I'm going to do this no matter what my circumstances are and what my situation is. I'm going to do it in any way or any form. Mm.
Are we still wondering?
Yeah, go for it.
I wonder there if Hakan sees the parallel between the resilience he's talking about, I'll do this in any way or any form, if he sees the parallel between that and the previous story, where no matter what, that guy is calling him out when he's on that stage, no matter how far off that looks. It's going to happen.
I was just wondering very simply if perchance Hakan's put a time frame onto this, a timestamp, like, I want to do this thing when?
I don't know. I haven't put a time frame around it. But saying that, there's one thing I know. There's the only thing that I've got is the present. Yeah. And what's come to me is start from the present. And I believe, well, I have started from the present. You know, I've just put that first post up. You know, so I have started. I've taken the first step. What just sort of comes to me is to allow myself to fail. Yeah, to fall on my face and get up and, oh, well, that didn't work. Yeah, it's that. And something that kind of scares me as well. And this is going to be involving me putting myself out there. Have any of you guys read The Ultimate Coach? Okay.
Yeah.
I read it several times, and the first part of it, I could so relate to him and everything, you know, all the crap he's gone through and stuff. The other part that scared the crap out of me, as in, this is my past. I can relate to that, but the possibility, oh my gosh. It's like, oh my gosh, I've got to make that happen. At the same time, I'm sort of saying the possibility of that.
It reminds me, I should have mentioned at the beginning, similar to Hardison's office is a place for miracles. The Insight
Mm.
Games happens to be a similar place. Uh, and I was thinking, step one for you was that post that you shared with us. Step two was coming on the Insight Games. And now I'm curious about what step three is going to be for you.
For me to put myself out there, step three, there's a job I've seen. It's not related to coaching, but it's related to this company who I would just love to work for, right? Because it's so awesome. Is to basically, just apply for that particular role. And then I'm like, even if I do that, right, I'll still do this. This isn't, I'm seeing this as, look, no matter what my circumstance is, I'll do this.
Interesting. The other thing that I was thinking about when you mentioned giving yourself permission to fail, to fall flat on your face, it was like what occurred to me was this distinction between being open to failing and needing to fail. Like just because you're open to it doesn't mean you're actually going to fail or
Yeah.
face. Just being willing to fall on your face is enough. You might find that it never actually happens. I don't know.
Here's something that just occurred to me. Changing the story of what failure meant to me.
Mm.
So before, up until now, it's like failure, shame. Oh my gosh, why? Rather than, oh well, that didn't work. Oh well, that person just unfriended me. Or, oh well, well, okay. It's to change the story on failing. Because so much that I notice is that people, well, I have held on to a story of, things not working out, that being something really bad, when it hasn't.
Yeah, thinking of those words still, to be able to fail, to be able to fall flat on your face, as well, and changing the story. Wondering if it's not about changing the failure story, but there's something about creating a completely different story.
Yeah.
Along the lines that if we want, I've got this failure story, I'm going to have to change that. Well, we keep failure in the picture, like, so I am failing, or I'm not failing, but the word failure is still there.
Mm.
I'm kind of thinking like, it's something along the lines of just quite simply not being attached to an outcome.
Mm.
Yeah, that's something I'm starting to see. Coming from a place where not being attached to a specific outcome And that's something I'm starting to see more and more for myself. Like some of the conversations I've had with people, I haven't had any expectation or a particular outcome. And what has been created from that is something which I'm going to say beyond my imagination, because something that I wouldn't have been able to imagine before the conversation.
Hmm. That seemed like a good place to wrap it up.
Yeah, that's an awesome place. Thank you, guys.
Yeah,
It's
thanks so
been
much for joining us. It's been a lot of fun.
playing with you guys.
Yeah,
Oh, that sounded a bit weird.
yeah. I can't wait to get the phone call from you. Greg, I need you to bail me out. I've been arrested for stalking.
In Turkey.
Yeah.
Don't get arrested for stalking in Turkey, Hakan.
No.
I would create a list of people who I could call on to create like a campaign to get me out of prison. So you guys are going to be on that list.
Yeah, it's awesome.
Free Hakan. Free
That's
Hakan.
it. I'll let you know where the Turkish embassies are.
Yeah, do.
There you go.
Oh my God.
Thanks so much for joining us. Had a lot of
Thanks,
fun.
Hakan.
Thanks, Hakan.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
All right, cool.
See
We'll see
you.
you soon.
See you soon.
Okay. You take care. Thank you. Bye.
Thanks for playing along. We'll see you next time on the Insight Games.